Now, to take this story further, we are being joined by Fleur Hassan Naum. She is the outgoing Deputy Mayor for Jerusalem and current Israel Special Envoy for the Foreign Ministry. Ms. Naum, thank you so much for joining us here on WION and taking out time to speak to us about this important development we are seeing in West Asia. I would want to begin with Gaza before we come to Lebanon. The Israeli Prime Minister says the intense phase in Gaza is almost over. He quoted about a month of time. He said soon, to be specific. However, the war will continue. That is something he has reiterated. What does this mean on the ground in Gaza?
Well, ultimately, unless we return our hostages and unless we dismantle the infrastructure of Hamas, the war won't be over. Hamas has proven to be an enemy that has in its main goals the destruction of the state of Israel, so it poses an existential threat. It has taken 130 of our people, including a 1-year-old baby and a 2-year-old baby and elderly people and women, and we need to get them home. And also we need to destroy this terrible genocidal group backed by Iran that wants the destruction of Israel. I think any country that has suffered the attack that we suffered on October the 7th will be doing the same thing or much worse.
All right, you rightly point out exactly what Israel's Prime Minister also said, that the hostages are an important part of the deal, and once they are out, I'm asking you what happens post that? What happens post the hostages are out and the intense phase, as Prime Minister pointed out, is over within a month? What happens post that?
Well, it depends. If the hostages come back, which we pray they will, with a deal, and remember, the Hamas have already rejected 5-6 deals that Israel, through mediators like the US and Qatar, they've rejected every single deal. So it really depends what the deal is, if the deal is for a temporary ceasefire or how long that temporary ceasefire will be. But ultimately, Israel has set the goal of the dismantlement of the terror infrastructure of
Ms.
Hamas.
Naum, very quickly, since you speak about the deal, I would want to quote Netanyahu. He says war will continue even if a truce deal is agreed upon with Hamas. So,
until Hamas dismantle themselves or surrender themselves, yes.
All right, let's shift our focus to Lebanon then. Hezbollah has repeatedly said that it is sophisticated, more equipped and ready for a war with Israel. Basically, it is not the same Hezbollah of the 2006. Do you think Benjamin Netanyahu can afford this war militarily?
Look, it's not about whether we can afford it or not. Ultimately, on the 8th of October, with absolutely no territorial claims, except, of course, the utter destruction of Israel, Hezbollah started attacking Israel on the 8th of October, so much so that we've had to evacuate 60,000 Israelis from the northern towns and communities, which is actually something unprecedented. Essentially, the buffer zone to protect Israelis has moved into our country and not out of our country, which has been military doctrine all of these years. So we have a big problem that we can't return people to their homes in the north of the country because Hezbollah keeps shelling. For what reason? I don't know. Maybe you can enlighten me, because Israel has no presence in Lebanon for a few decades now. And so if, again, this is a war we don't want, we never wanted a war with Hamas. We do everything in Israel to avoid war. But if this is a war that we have to return peace to our northern border, we will have that war and we will win that war.
All right. And how much of backing does Netanyahu have from Washington, D.C. when it comes to Hezbollah?
I think Washington are fully aware, because they've been sending envoys, and the Secretary of State also were trying very, very hard to stop the escalation. And the people who keep escalating are Hezbollah. Hezbollah are 10 times as powerful as Hamas. Unfortunately, they're backed by Iran, and it's a huge problem. But again, if Israel has to go to war, we never want war, but if we have to go to war and win, we will.
Ms. Naum, I have a statement by the UN with me here. The chief said the world cannot afford Lebanon becoming another Gaza. In case there is a war with Hezbollah in Lebanon by Israel, do you think there is a possibility that Lebanon will look a lot like Gaza?
Well, the UN, it's interesting that they're putting out a statement when they have had UN observers or a military force there in Lebanon to make sure that Hezbollah don't go over a certain line, and they failed. So I think the people who can talk about what will happen in Lebanon the last are the UN, who've completely failed in the one job that they had in Lebanon, and that is to keep Hezbollah behind the Litani River.
All right, Ms. Naoum, thank you so much for joining us here on WION and getting us your insights.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.